Eternity. This movie was incredible. I have to tell you, it was the topic of
Mhm.
discussion for the rest of the night after my friends and I saw it. It was
Perfect.
so amazing. And there's been so many movies made about the afterlife, but the concept
Mm.
of choosing your own eternity was such a fun ride. I have to know, what was the scariest part of telling the story about choosing between your first and last love?
I mean, I think, well, the scariest part, I think, was just having to confront kind of what love is to me. I think for me and Pat, my co-writer, I think we spent so much of our time just discussing, well, what is important to us in a relationship and reflecting on past relationships and kind of confronting our current relationships in a ultimately very positive way. But I think that was kind of possibly quite frightening. But it was lovely as well to kind of explore love in its many different forms, and I think that's what the film does. I think, with her relationship with Luke, her first husband, and her second husband, Larry, I think it's not about right or wrong. They both reflect very different things, and I think her at very different points in her life, and I think that's what makes it special.
Yeah, after the movie, I was like, I knew I shouldn't have worn eye makeup to this. I knew I should have had a bucket of tissues. And I love that
Nice.
you said Pat would call you and he would be like, my wife said this would never happen, this would never be said. And then that helped you guys
Mm.
work out another avenue to go with the characters, which I found really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think our own lived relationships and experiences so informed this. And it could not do that. And I think even for my cast, I think, Lizzie always says the moment she fell in love with Larry was when he choked on a pretzel because she could so easily imagine her husband doing that. So it really brought a lot home to us about kind of yeah, our own experiences and what's truthful to us in those relationships. So yeah, we definitely had to listen to our partners quite a lot.
Yes. What were some major roadblocks you faced during writing? Was there that one
Mm.
scene or moment that kept you up at night?
I mean, I think that it wrote quite easily. But I think that scene where Lizzie first arrives in the afterlife and meets everyone for the first time, but meets kind of Larry again and then Luke again after 67 years. I think that was such a pivotal moment because it is the hook of the film. The whole thing rests on that and feeling, and less in the writing, but more in the direction and in the production, just making sure every relationship was felt in that moment. But I think it's all credit to this incredible, wonderful cast that you feel every one of those moments. I mean, I love how you can just see in Lizzie's eyes, you can almost see 6 years fade away when she sees Luke coming out of the junction for the first time, and you can feel the annoyance and all that kind of built up relationship of an old couple with Larry, and it's all in those dynamics, and so that really was beautiful. But that's a scene that I really feared for the kind of several months leading up to production, just making sure we got it right.
Was it a one take wonder, or were there a few moments where you went back and you spoke to the actors about how you wanted to see it come alive?
I think because I was so anxious about it, and we all worked on it so much, it actually happened so easily. Like we had hundreds of extras. We had this big set that like a couple of months ago only existed in my head, and all our actors on set. But I think because I was so worried about it, it actually happened really quickly. I mean, there was a lot of coverage, but we didn't actually have to reshoot much. It kind of the actors knew their roles so well. We had such a clear shot list. So it's one of those scenes, sometimes the most complicated scenes to shoot end up being the simplest. And then sometimes it's the most easy scene that ends up taking loads of time because they're the ones you prepare and prepare and prepare for. So actually, no, it was a real dreamy day, and we gave it a lot of time to get it right as well. So it was quite easy,
I love that.
which
All
is
that
nice.
anticipation, and then it
Yeah,
flew by and it worked out.
exactly, exactly. And then like an extreme close up of a cup can take an hour. So that's
Yes.
shooting.
Yep, that's so funny.
Yeah.
And I like that you said the script was kind of like a blueprint, but then when you met with
Mm.
the cast, you'd go back and rewrite some things
Yeah.
based on your interactions. Can you share a perfect example of that happening?
Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned before how my favorite scene is the squatting scene that just came from a conversation with Miles talking about how he loved how Larry wants to make Joan happy and he's always trying to do that, and like that, for this old couple in young bodies, squatting felt so romantic. So I remember writing that as a response to that conversation, and Lizzie really hit on this notion that I love that. uh, Joan has never really made a, a decision for herself. It's always been about, one of her husbands or her family or her parents. And she said it so eloquently that I just wrote it into the script. So there's a moment in the pearly gates when she's really drunk and on the ground with her friend Karen, where she just verbalizes that. She says, "I've never made a decision," and that just came directly from Lizzie's amazing insight into Joan. And there's loads of little moments like that that kind of pepper the film, just and even just little breaths and touches that we added in as a response to these incredible actors. And I think if you're gifted with such a brilliant cast and you need to use them to their fullest, squeeze every penny from them. So yeah, they made it so much more, I think, impactful and moving than it would have been without them.
The casting was impeccable.
Yeah.
During auditions, was there a particular chemistry read or moment that
Yeah.
sealed the deal for you with any of the leads?
I mean, it's funny because obviously when you have a dream cast like this, you make the approach and you just hope then firstly they like it and that you get on. But we managed to get together myself and Lizzie and Callum, and then myself, Lizzie, and Miles in kind of groups of three, in LA in pre-production, and that was lovely because I could feel the chemistry with her and Callum, and feel the chemistry with her and Miles. And then I got to meet up with Devine and stuff beforehand and John. But it wasn't until we actually got to production that we got all of them together. And so we were very clear the very first week of production. We shot all the memory tunnel stuff, all the kind of to build up those past relationships and essentially use them as an extension of the rehearsal where these guys got to fill in the gaps of their lives together and get to know each other even more. And that's actually when Miles and Callum first met each other, which was incredible. And that's, I think, again, when I had a sense of ease because they got on so well and they had such great banter, and it felt like the final relationship in this whole triangle was completed. Because I love that kind of buddy comedy relationship between them that develops throughout the film, and that really quickly formed. But it wasn't until we got to production that we knew that would happen. So until you get there, you're kind of just praying it works out.
Right. At the end, I was like, you know what? I kind of want this bromance to just go pick eternity together and just
I
have some
know.
fun.
You know what? The sequel, I think that would be a lot of fun. I think,
Yeah.
but I kind of love, and I think it was Callum who really hit upon it that, ultimately they have a lot in common, and what they really have in common is that they both love this woman, and I think that's really sweet that they end up bonding over that.
Right. I know that was one of my favorite parts. Can
Right.
you share an absolute favorite memory of directing Callum, Miles, Elizabeth? Maybe it was like a trio scene or something like that.
Yeah.
What comes to mind?
Oh God. I mean, anytime we had all of them together, it was a blast. But I think the day we were in the bedroom with them, with John and Davine, we did the really brilliant coin tossing scene and the really lovely letter passing scene, which is also really heartbreaking. We did them all in one day, which was a really intense day, but it was just so much fun. They were so funny. They were really they allowed for some brilliant ad-libbing moments. And you could just feel how much they were enjoying it. And they were kind of devolved into teenagers together, the five of them. Like literally, I felt like a teacher just kind of corralling them into position. And it was just a joy. It was like like behind the cameras, we were all kind of really excited. I kept running into the producer's tent going, "This is amazing." Because yeah, they just got on so well. And you can feel, and I think when you watch the film, you can feel how much they're enjoying themselves, and they were so funny. They were like so funny together. So I think that was my favorite day, just in that hotel bedroom.
It's so funny. I interviewed John M. Chu for Wicked, and he's like, it felt like a
Yeah.
kindergarten class. So now I'm
Yeah.
convinced when your film feels like a playground, it's like the most fun to be on. That is probably the meter of
Yeah.
just fun. It just seems like it was light and everyone gets along so well. It sounds so incredible.
Yeah, I think that's really important when you're making a film, and I think he's John, who I don't know, John Chu is right. I think you feel even if it's heavier subject matter, I think you can feel when the actors are letting go and enjoying themselves, and I think that's when they truly can give themselves over to the work. You never want to. I think sometimes you can feel the actors' reticence if they're not in a comfortable place, and you want to make sure they're as comfortable as possible. And thankfully, these guys were amazing, and they helped set a tone on set with my crew as well. That made sure everyone felt like they shared in this vision, and that was lovely.
Now, when cameras went down, what did cast bonding
Mm.
look like? Were there dinners, David, trailer hangouts? What was that like?
Yeah. There was. I mean, there was some dinners, which was really nice, which was great to get to know them. But it's funny. Like we had a like a tight shoot. We had 30 days, which is very, very tight
Wow.
for this scale of film. And that was incredible. But like, so usually when cameras are down, I was just wrecking the next location and writing shot lists. And I'd be ringing the actors like with ideas and notes and thoughts and coming in the next day with new lines. But I never felt like we had much downtime. We had a great time, but I felt like we were constantly just moving. I think we had the nimbleness of an indie film with us, because we just like really we had so much to cover. I think me and Lizzie would occasionally get together and just be like, I can't believe we did that much in that day. That's crazy. Like it was kind of unrelenting, but in a really fun way. I think it had an energy that kind of swept us along in the making of it. But yeah, it didn't really like we hung out beforehand and we hung out afterwards, but it didn't leave. I think I spent so much of the downtime just trying to sleep because I
Right.
was
I'm
so
shocked to
tired.
hear 30 days
30
for that
days, yeah.
caliber of film. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And that's all credit to again this cast, but also this crew who were so prepared and we had ABC plans going into every day. We knew exactly what our shots were. We didn't have like we allowed time for the actors to play and be comfortable, but we didn't have time to do like ample takes or kind of just, we'd never had the luxury of like let's take five or take 10 and just chat about the scene. It was always like, you know what you're doing, let's go. And I like that. I like that energy on a set. I think the work is in advance, so you can have that kind of momentum.
right. Now, which eternity did you have the most fun conjuring up?
I loved conjuring up the mall. I remember just in kind of in the writing, just going for lovely long dog walks, thinking of like, medieval world, but with modern plumbing or whatever it is. I loved all of them, um, like a lot. I think I have a lot of pride in the ones that are those revisionist histories, the 1940s Ireland without the famine, or Weimar Germany without the Nazis. Just because I think when you think about those periods, you aren't thinking about the negatives.
Right.
So it's nice to like, you're not thinking of an Austen-esque England, but the fact that it all smells. You're thinking of it with modern sanitation. So I think those are really fun to think of. But I love like I would like to go to Studio 54 World. I think that'd be great.
I know there were so many. I started thinking of my own of everything I never got to experience, like the 80s
Yeah.
and all these times. I was
Yeah.
like, wouldn't that be fun to go back and check that
Yeah.
out?
Yeah. And also we were just like, I think we wanted to make sure there are big laughs and that's great. But there's a truth behind all of them. And I keep reflecting that like queer world without straight people is obviously a big joke. But actually, when I was a younger man and I didn't feel very comfortable with queer people or straight people, sorry, I think I would have chosen queer world. So I think there's a truth behind every joke as to why that world would appeal to somebody. And so yeah, so I think there's a reason why people would choose those.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Now, if people were to walk out of the theater debating one idea, what would you hope
Yeah.
that topic is?
Oh, I hope, firstly, I hope they had a good time and laughed and cried, but I kind of hope that they come out believing, maybe reflecting on their own relationships, which is a nice thing, but also maybe just reflecting on the idea that there's more than one kind of idea of happiness. I think it was really important to us that, like, yes, Joan has this big dilemma and this decision, and she makes the decision that's right for her, but there's no right or wrong answer here. We have Karen who chooses to go to live her best life in her 70s because that's when she came out and was happiest. And I think there's no one blueprint for what a happy or loving life looks like. And I hope that's what they take out of it most of all. Yeah, and reflect on their own lives. That'd be lovely. But if they just laugh and cry, I'll be happy too.
Oh yes, I know. I turned and my friend, he has tears streaming down his face in the theater. I was
Oh,
like, "Oh, it
I
got
love
you.
that.
It got you."
I
It was
love that.
so well done. Was there an audience reaction from any of the cast that really stuck with you after Miles, Elizabeth, you guys watched the movie? Did anyone reach out with a reaction that really spoke
Yeah.
to you?
Yeah, they were like they did. I mean, Miles hates watching his own work. He really does, but he did watch it, and he was like, it's probably one of the best things I've done. He was so proud of it, and I think he was so proud of all their work and how they reflected ordinary love. I think he really put a lot of his self and his grandparents into this role and kind of what that means to him. And I think he felt really honored that the film reflected his work and our work. And I think that was really meaningful to me. So yeah, I think that reaction from him was amazing, just because I know he doesn't like watching himself necessarily. He's such a brilliant actor, but I think I understand that reticence. So that was a big one. I remember Devine sitting behind me in Toronto watching it, bawling her eyes out. So just hearing her cry was nice.
Right. Oh my gosh,
Yeah,
Divine and John, they cracked,
brilliant.
I mean, brilliant.
Oh,
It was
they're
amazing.
absolutely sensational. They're so brilliant and so funny, and they're such an incredible duo in the film. I think they really made it funnier than I expected. Like I just wanted to keep writing for them. I feel like I still want to write for them, like for those roles. Yeah, an honor.
Now, is there any world in which we could get a sequel, seeing where they ended up in eternity or
Yeah.
following maybe Luke?
Yeah. I mean, Luke's gonna have a fine time. He'll be grand. I think the story of this love triangle is over. She's made her decision. We're gonna let them be happy, in whatever they do. But I wouldn't mind revisiting the Junction again. I love that world. Maybe in TV form and like kind of revisiting the afterlife coordinators, whether that's with John or Devine. Just, I think it's such a rich world to explore, and we had so much fun there. So there might be a story there, but I think let's let the film settle for a while first.
Right. And real quick, of course, the tragic death
Yeah,
of Rob and Michelle Reiner. So
horrific.
awful. As a director yourself, how did his work impact you throughout your life?
I mean, he's like an icon to me, to most film. I mean, I think even if you're not a filmmaker, he's probably made one of your favorite films or one of your favorite people's favorite films. And I think, obviously when Harry Met Sally is the greatest romantic comedy of all time, Spinal Tap. I mean, but also just the like Misery, just the breadth of his work was so extraordinary. And I think um what I really love about his work, maybe Misery aside, but there's a real, not that I don't love it, but there's a real kindness to his work that I really respond to. There's a real belief in humanity that I think is at the heart of his work, and I think it was so clear that was at the heart of that man and his beautiful wife. And yeah, it's an unspeakable tragedy, but I think uh, his legacy is going to live for forever in beyond film because he's just one of those greats. And yeah, and I watched When Harry Met Sally last night just because I felt like I had to. And yeah, he's going to be deeply, deeply missed. It's, yeah, it's
Yeah, you
horrific.
said it perfectly.